Okay, I guess it's 6:32 or 5:32 for you, those of you on the Central Time. So we'll get started. I know some others will probably trickle in as we go on, but thanks so much for taking the time to learn more about Sage Core. I'm Lindsay. I'm the admissions lead and the program coordinator for Sage Core. Also have my colleague Hannah here as well, head of community. And then we have two alumni, two DSP alumni from the Sage Core program from last year, and also various other DSP people scattered throughout, Chuck and Luke, and they're here as well. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. Sage Core, just like a quick overview, is an international internship program that sends college students to work abroad with startup companies. And the program structure, just like a study abroad would be, to include like housing and health insurance and all of those things. And we send cohorts of about 20 to 30 students to go live together in select global cities. And as I mentioned, we include like furnished apartments, local staff that take students to events and support students with any issues that they may have, as well as international medical insurance. It's quite comprehensive. But in this situation, instead of going to class, students go to work alongside entrepreneurs at startup companies, often at local startup hubs or accelerators. Most of the startups do offer stipends to help with costs for like meals and local transport. Any major, any year in school can apply. And as well as part of the program, before going abroad, students also go through our online skills academy to build new hard and soft skills that we know our partner startups are wanting to see. So it really is a professional development program that helps students really jumpstart their career or further their career. And as I mentioned, we do have the Sage Core Skills Academy. I'll get more into that a little bit later. That kind of helps students be most prepared for what we're finding is really prominent in the workplace, things that you may not learn in school that may be in demand by startup companies or by a future employer. And our goal is really to help build the next generation of the global workforce. Having international work experience is so rare these days. I think like less than 1% of students have international work experience. So it's really a great way to differentiate yourself against like a stack of identical resumes. It's an experience that I think really stands out. And we do actually have three different options currently. Of course, right now we're really focusing on the summer full-time internship abroad. So students will go live abroad for 8 weeks, working full-time with a startup company. We also have two other options. If you're looking to do a study and intern option for the spring semester, we have like Dublin and Sydney, Australia as options for that. So particularly I find for students that are out of state, apparently it's cheaper to study abroad than it is to pay out of state tuition for some schools. So if you happen to be an out of state student, definitely consider it. It's a great way to do both like study abroad and do an internship with a startup company. And then we also have our remote semester programs that we run throughout the year, like fall and spring semester, as well as summer. And then of course for summer, remote internships, a great option for students that maybe need to stay closer to home, but still want to get international work experience and be a part of a remote cohort that meets about every 2 weeks over the summer. So a few different options to consider. As I mentioned, the program is open to all majors. I know for many DSP students, more like business marketing. So we will talk a bit more about those as well. But we do like really work with all majors. I think there's different things that every major has to offer. And we do work with current university students or recent graduates. I would say freshmen through recent grads do our program. And any varying level of experience is we're able to work with any students because of the online skills academy. We're able to allow students to upskill in any areas that they need to match them for the program. And then we do have a preferred minimum GPA of a 3.0. If you don't happen to have a 3.0 on the application, you can specify if there's any particular circumstances surrounding that, so we can get a better picture kind of what kind of student you are. But typically it's just a preferred requirement, I would say, or I'm sorry, just a preference. And I know I introduced myself. This is like a bit of our admissions team. So if you do interview with anyone for the program, you may interview with myself, Danny, or Tisha. We also have some others that you may interview with. And then Hannah, you may have gotten emails from her. So just like putting a face to the people behind the program. And then, as I mentioned, we do have two Sage Core alumni here with us tonight that are DSP students. Emma, if you want to do like just a quick intro of like your university and the program.
Yeah, so hey y'all, my name is Emma and I interned in Paris. I worked with a company called Fix That Shirt, which is basically like a sustainability based fashion tech company. It's like reducing waste and making clothing repair and alteration simpler. In Paris, I did marketing and development for them. My major is business admin, so it kind of fit in pretty well there. I was able to do a lot of content creation, and I also got to do a little bit of work on legal documents, and then I met with a lot of American investors. Some cool stuff that I was able to do. I got to travel to Amsterdam with them to compete in a seed to scale competition. Got to go to Paris Fashion Week with them and interview brands. And Paris was just really awesome because it's a lot different culturally. I made a lot of friends from other schools. I had an absolute blast, and I learned a lot that I use in my other internships now, my jobs, and other opportunities I wouldn't have had without Paris and Sage Course. So,
Awesome. And you got to take this wonderful photo with the Eiffel Tower in the background.
yes, I did. I love Paris.
That was a great intro. Dre, sorry, I'll go back. If you want to do a little intro for yourself as well.
Hey guys, like it says, I'm Dre McGrew from the Epsilon Xi chapter at Ball State. I did my Sage Core internship in Sydney. So like it is over the summer for us, but it was winter actually in Australia, which was really cool. I got to experience two winters in 1 year. But basically, I instead of working for a startup company, I worked for a scale-up company. So that means they were a little bit more developed than just having one entrepreneur there. There was a couple people in the office actually. They actually were well funded and it was working similar to like a corporate setting. I was working directly under the head of delivery, who is the kind of in charge of all the engineering and all the product managers. My internship was a product management internship. My major is computer information systems, but my the guy I was working under, he allowed me to kind of craft my own type of internship based off of the skills I wanted to gain from it. Education Perfect, it's like a toolkit basically that helps teachers with students from like K through 12 develop themselves in the classroom and trying to make that process a lot smoother. And I thought the skills I would be able to develop would be a lot more useful working alongside the product and engineering team. I know it says I did a business analytics internship. That's what I applied for. But as you guys will see, if you just communicate whoever you're working under, they allow you to craft the internship to whatever you see fit, which I thought was a really great experience too.
Awesome. You have such a business voice, Dre. You're ready for your business career. Yeah, I will say that we have specific roles that we look for, but with any startup, like it's sort of an all hands on deck situation, like you said. So if there's something you're interested in learning about, like you definitely have supervision from your startup to kind of work in other areas as well, which I think is really attractive for a lot of students that maybe have a specific skill set, but they want to develop more skills in like marketing or something like that. So it's like a great option as well. And then, Dre and Emma are, I guess, one of oh my gosh, one of over 1,200 alumni that we've had do our program. It's been around for about 10 years. And at this point, about 86% of our alumni have found full-time jobs within 3 months of graduating. I believe that statistic was like a few percentages higher before COVID, but still around the same even with that happening. So we found that our students really, from getting these real world skills or these applications of real world skills with startup companies, they've been able to develop that into their careers, and they're just more marketable due to these skills. And I think due to that experience. And particularly, I think what sets our program apart from others is that we do work with startup companies, and there's a reason behind that. We find that they really do foreshadow the types of roles that will be available in the marketplace like years ahead of time. So it's a way for students to kind of get an edge on that. And also students, many times in interviews, I hear students say that they're not sure about what they want to do in the future, or maybe they do have an idea, but it does give you the ability to try out different aspects or different roles. Like in many cases, you don't know what you like doing until you're doing it. So it's really useful to kind of find that information out while you're still in school before you're looking for a job after graduation. And also you have access to co-founders. I hear so many times from students that one of their favorite things about the internship is the people that they've worked with and being around inspirational leaders like that. Like it's just a really unique experience. And I think very different from many environments that you could find domestically, just because of the passion that you need to create a startup company. So we also find that students make a real impact on the startups that they work with, even though the in-person internship is 8 weeks, the remote is 12 weeks. Even in that time, you can really see the impact that you've had on the company. It does matter because it's mostly small teams. So the work that you do really does help the company grow from there. It's also very fun. I know we put that at the bottom, but it is a really unique work environment that I think really lends itself to the younger generation as well. And these are the types of placements that we typically do offer for our program. These are like not really random things that we've chosen. This is what the startups have specifically asked for. And we've actually adjusted them. I believe last year we did have business analytics, but this year we found that there really weren't many placements that were looking for that. So we sort of adjusted it into business development. So we have these 6 roles available that would be business development, marketing, data analytics, software, UX, UI, and graphic design. I think maybe for DSP students, it's more, I guess, business development, marketing, analytics, maybe some design as well. Also in particular, startup companies, I think almost always need help with marketing. I think it's something that's just inherent to the business, getting the word out about their company. So I will highlight a couple of marketing or business development placements that our programming team specifically asked us to let students know about that are available this year. Not to say that you would potentially be with those companies or have that exact placement, but it can kind of give you a better idea about the types of placements that we have. Because I find that that's one of the most common questions I get is, do you have a list of startups, or what will my placement look like? And they are a bit different. It does depend on the company, but generally, like, these are some different, I guess, things that you can see in all these startups. So I'll just kind of go through this slide a little bit to give you a bit of an idea. For example, in Paris this year, there's a marketing internship with a mental wellness Olympic event. So the responsibilities would include like designing a comprehensive brand package, launching a dedicated event website and social media channels, executing a strategic content marketing plan, and just engaging with community groups, wellness organizations, target audiences, while also coordinating partnerships with local businesses and sponsors to enhance event experience. So of course, this year, Paris is hosting the Olympics, so maybe a little bit different than when Emma was there last year, but still really cool placement related to the Olympics. I think it's very exciting. Another placement that I wanted to highlight, we have a returning startup partner called Impact Hub in Berlin. They're looking for a marketing intern to elevate their social media and content by assisting in crafting engaging pieces such as like blog posts, social media posts or videos, and managing social platforms and analyzing some metrics for that. Impact Hub Berlin is a super cool location. I was actually able to visit there last summer with our orientation. Really cool space, especially for those interested in kind of more sustainability, environmental type of placement, which we can't always promise, but it is a cool placement for that. And then a few others in Madrid this year, which is a new location. We have a startup that works in carbon and ESG management for companies wanting to take action. So dedicated to all companies wishing to measure, manage, and reduce their CO2 emissions at an affordable price. So they're looking for a marketing intern that will help with market research, email marketing, social media, and customer communication. Really cool this year that we have two placements or 2 locations in Europe, in Spain, both Madrid and Barcelona. And then we have another returning startup partner called Brick Bro in Barcelona, that's in the real estate industry. So they're looking for a marketing intern to join the team that will collaborate with their marketing and advertising team in all stages of marketing campaigns. So your contribution would help develop, expand, and maintain their marketing channels. So all these placements are like a little bit different. You can kind of see that it's a little bit different depending on the placement, but there's a lot of really exciting organizations that we're a part of. And of course, we always get more startups each year, just through word of mouth. I think many startups have successful experiences and they reach out to others. So just to give you an idea of some potential placements as well. And then, as I mentioned, we do have like actually we have 2 new locations this year. We have 9 global cities to choose from, as well as the remote program as well. I will say that at this point in the year, Barcelona isn't nearly full. So if you are interested in that placement, I do advise moving very quickly for that. But otherwise, we do still have a number of placements. And then also for students that may be on the quarter system, I don't know if that applies to anyone. Lisbon is one of our programs that runs a bit later, so that may be more accommodating for those of you getting out later in the summer as well. And then we have like a couple of just surprise photos of our alumni while they were abroad. Emma, I was wondering if you would just tell us a bit about like what was like the highlight for you of the summer, like something that you really enjoyed from your internship or from your time in Paris.
Yeah, so I have two from a work experience. Like I said earlier, I got to go to Paris Fashion Week. They sprung that on me. They gave me a surprise ticket to one of the shows, and they let me go interview some brands. So I had a really great time doing that. I was able to get some cool content out of that, but it was more to they did that so that I could have more insight on what fashion is like in like the fashion capital of the world. And then on a like social side, those 2 pictures at the bottom, we took a trip to Croatia at one point. So if you're in Europe, it's really easy to hop on a train or a flight and go somewhere pretty cheaply. So we did that for a couple days and we had an absolute blast.
Wow. I don't know if I realized you guys went to Croatia. That's wild.
It was about half of the program too that
Okay.
decided to go. Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah, I know at one point the Barcelona cohort, like many of them were in Italy, and I was like, wait a minute, where are they, what city are they from? Like I couldn't remember where everyone was supposed to be because it is, like you said, quite easy to travel when you're in Europe. So it's easy to kind of get from one place to another. And Dre, we have some feature photos of you as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing maybe your highlights from the summer or from your program as well.
Yeah, so the Sydney cohort in general, they told us at the beginning we're always the smallest cohort. So we all kind of took pride in that. We were such a small, tight-knit group. We kind of did everything together because there was like less than 20 of us. But like from a professional standpoint, the building I was working in, I was with one other from my group, and we really got like to know each other a lot better because we didn't know each other prior. We're from different parts in the US, and we were able to run meetings for Education Perfect together. And it felt really nice to get that professional development and working alongside someone my age. It just felt like really awesome. And then like things we did on the weekend. So if anyone's familiar with like the geography of Australia, we were on the East Coast. So you can backpack the whole East Coast like each weekend and get back to Sydney, which is kind of like the central hub. So we kind of backpacked from Sydney. We went down to like Melbourne. We went up to the Gold Coast, like the Great Barrier Reef. And then some of us, one of the easiest ways to fly into New Zealand is from Sydney. It's like less than 200 US dollars from Sydney. So some people flew over to New Zealand, did some backpacking and traveling over there as well. But that was really fun from a personal standpoint because I do like to backpack and travel and hostel hop and stuff like that. So when I wasn't in the office, I was backpacking the East Coast. So that was pretty fun.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. I also heard from the Sydney crew that you guys went to New Zealand, and I was like, that's also crazy. Like, I'm really glad you guys were able to take advantage of that because it is so hard, I think, to get to that part of the world unless you're doing a program like this. That's always what I tell students. I'm like, it's hard to get there, and then you can have such a great time. I know you mentioned that it was winter in Sydney when you were there. The winter is like quite mild though compared to, you're in Indiana, right? So it's not like the Indiana winter.
Yes, no. So like winter over there is still like 60 degrees at like the on some of their worst days. So it almost felt perfect, but it's not as like over there, obviously in the summer, they get like higher weather, like 90s, but 60 degrees was it felt perfect for most of us because we got to pack a variety of clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question too? I can't remember from your original applications for M&Dre. Did you set out wanting to go to those locations, or did you decide that sort of later? Like, was it sort of like, did it match what you had originally applied for?
Yeah, I applied to go to Paris. I have always been really, really interested in like that specific area of the world. I know when a lot of people travel, they're like, I need to go see the Eiffel Tower right now. So I was like, I need to do that. So, but I didn't realize, I guess, the full effect that Parisian culture and like French culture really has on like fashion and how the rest of the world operates. So that was really cool to, I guess, see.
And then me as well. Sydney was my first choice. I really wanted to go to that side of the world, even though it is so far away. I thought it would be interesting.
Yeah, now you have all these wonderful photos. These photos that we put together, I'm just saying, like, I think you guys all took them, but I'm very impressed with these photos. Yeah, so now that you're really like hooked in with Emma and Dre's testimonials, if you're interested in the program, you can apply on our website. I believe the upcoming deadline is March 20th for new applications. And so from there, if you're selected, you will be invited to do an interview. And then from there, offers are extended on a rolling basis. I believe currently the upcoming deadline is like April, but we're filling spots on a first come, first served basis. So if there is a spot that you for sure want, just advise moving quickly for that, as it'll be ending the end of this month, or early next month, I should say. If you are interested in moving forward with the program, after you're extended an offer, you would sign your student agreement and you would pay the deposit to enroll. The deposit is just like $1,000 of your total fee. It's not like an additional fee or anything. And then once you're accepted from there, or once you've accepted your spot on the program, you'll meet your program manager and you'll start working through the Skills Academy and preparing for the matching process. And the Skills Academy is very customizable. And so your program manager will work with you on what makes the most sense for you to focus on in preparation for the matching process. There are 6 different learning paths. So it's based on like the role that you'll be doing. But it's really, I've seen students use the Skills Academy to put certifications on their resume that help them stand out for this internship and for the near future as well. There are also some soft skills modules as well, like interview preparation, networking, resume editing, all of that stuff. So it's really quite comprehensive in terms of a professional development program. And this is what it would look like in your student portal for the Skills Academy. So this is just kind of an example. You can see what it would look like through LinkedIn Learning. And then besides, like, I guess that's what I said earlier, this is probably the most common question, is about the matching process and what startup will I be placed with? Generally, it's a bit of a process in terms of the matching, just because you work with your program manager, you have a call with them where you discuss kind of your goals for the summer, your skill set. They kind of evaluate what you need to do in the Skills Academy. And then from there, they focus on your resume and helping you prepare for the interviews. So in some cases, you'll actually have like mock interviews with your program manager, and they'll work with you on your resume to make sure that you're kind of putting your best foot forward for the process. And then from there, your program manager will send your resume to the startups they think are the best match. And then the startups that are looking to interview you will then coordinate the interview. And then when you interview with the startup, if it's a match, that would be considered your match. If not, you'll have another interview until you find a match, essentially. And just a bit of like, this is also a question I get a lot, is what will my day-to-day look like? And it does sort of depend on where you're actually placed. So many of the cities, we've oriented them around these startup hubs in particular, so that a lot of students will be working out of the same place. So like you're in the housing together, and then you'll kind of be working out of the same place, but for different startup companies. I would say probably the best example is Dogpatch Labs in Dublin. I think the majority of our students for the Dublin program do end up working out of Dogpatch Labs. So that really is sort of a true incubator accelerator where students are having that experience. But in many other cities, there's multiple startup incubators or accelerators that students work out of, or if their company is more established, they may have their own office and be working there. So sometimes you'll have like a buddy that you'll be working with and commuting with, but sometimes you'll be the only one at your startup, which I think is good, kind of gives you like different experiences. And then you can hear about others in the cohort sort of have these different perspectives as well. So these are just some examples of some startup hubs that we work with around the world. And as far as what's included in the program fee, I know this is like quite a long list of things, but generally you have your furnished apartment housing as well as events that you'll do with your cohort. There's like a pre-departure orientation you'll have, as well as a 2-day in-person orientation. You'll have events with your cohort almost every week. I believe there's also like an excursion included. There's some meals that you'll have with your cohort that are included. So all those events. And then we have city managers in each city. Sometimes there'll be 2 if there's a larger cohort. So you'll have a local city manager, someone who is quite familiar with the area or even from the area, that can kind of be your resource, like both a cultural liaison as well as there for emergencies, on the ground support, which is I think really important, especially, for example, if you're like in Sydney and you're really far away from home. So it's really great that we have them on staff as well. And then also included in the program fee would be your international medical insurance, which is quite comprehensive. I think parents care more about that than students do, but it is really important to have coverage like that while you're abroad. And then also, as I've mentioned a lot in this presentation, the Online Skills Academy is also included. So please take advantage of that, because it could really make a huge difference overall. And there's some other things included in here that I didn't like list off, but generally, those are all the things that are included. The only things that are not included in your program fee would be like your flights, as well as like transportation and like food. So kind of your daily living expenses would not be included, but just keep that in mind. Oh, Emma has to head out to an actual DSP chapter event, but thank you so much for coming, Emma.
It was so nice to talk to y'all. I just don't want to be late to DSP chapter coming from a DSP meeting.
We'll let them know. All right. Thanks so much for coming, Emma. All right. And then I just have like a few photos so you can kind of get an idea of what different spaces that we have. So one of these that's listed here is the base, which is in Berlin. So the students on either side of that photo are actually in that location. So those are like what their rooms look like, just so you can kind of get an idea. And then these are the types of inclusions that you would have as well, like your laundry being located there, as well as having sometimes like co-working spaces in the lobby, things like that. So we do try to really find the best housing that we can for these locations so that you can feel comfortable and really be connected to the cohort while you're there. And then the events, I think, are one of the most important parts of the program, besides like the internship, like the events you'll actually do with your cohort, getting to meet other people from around the country. We always hear from students that they create such important friendships while they're abroad. And this is, I think, photos of like where a lot of that happens. So there'll be some excursions that you'll have, as well as some meals with the cohort, just some unforgettable memories, if you will. And then I know on the last note, how to fund the program. So we do have partnerships with a number of schools. Generally, we do also have scholarships through us. There's considered, we call them Sage Core scholarships. They're listed on the website. There's 3 of them you can apply to. You can only receive 1 of them, but definitely look into that if you're looking to kind of supplement the program fee. Definitely check with your university to see if there is any funding available. We've listed some that we know of. Some particular schools have identified like international internship funding, which we found to be available. So definitely look into those. as I mentioned, the internships are with more like early stage companies, but many times they do offer stipends. So last year, about 70% of our startups did offer stipends. On average, they're, I would say, $200 to $500 a month. They're meant to kind of offset your living expenses for when you're in country. And then otherwise, I've talked to many students this year that maybe found out about the program like last year or the year before. And so they actually kind of like saved in advance for the program, which may not help you for this year, but if you're happen to be an underclassman, you can always kind of plan ahead. Some students working like part-time jobs are able to kind of save up over time, or sort of like family funding, I think has also been helpful for students. So different things to look into. But I just wanted to allot a little bit of time in case you have questions for our alumni. I know Emma had to go. If you do have any particular questions for her, I can always connect you with her to chat about those. But just wanted to see if anyone had any particular questions for Dre. You can either, I guess, like put it in the chat and then we can answer it. Any questions?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, they were talking about how they had like a lot of experiences, like going to Croatia, or I think he was describing Croatia and New Zealand, and so are those aren't included in the four activities, correct? Those are more extra on the side kind of things, like for optional kind of things.
Yes. So we have like specific events the cohort will do together. And then I think just naturally the students did other events outside of those. So those were sort of like other excursions that they funded.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question, Lindsay, for Dre. I wanted to know about what you guys did for the Sydney group that were some of like the organized events. Like I think you did an opera house tour. I don't know if you were in town for all those or not, but if you could
Yeah.
share a little bit about like what you did with the group.
So our organizer allowed us to pick the days that would be like the most convenient for everyone. So at the beginning, when we all first arrived in Sydney, we chose to do the Opera House tour there. Just immediately, it allowed us all to get to know each other right away. And then about in like week 5 or week 6, we took a bus. We chose to we had multiple options, but we chose to bus to a wine tasting where we drove about like an hour away from Sydney, all in this bus together, and we just we tasted lots of wine, and we're just like on a farm, and that was the excursion that we chose to do. But I'm not too sure if I can't speak on the other cohorts, but they should give you an option, like, and then it's just majority what everybody wants to do. But yeah, we had a couple options, and we all decided that wine tasting would be a nice way to cap it off.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in general, yeah, they do want the scheduled events students to be able to attend them. So I believe they do ask students like what days work for them or which ones they prefer if there is an option. Yeah. Any other questions? If you do have any other questions that you don't want to ask at this time, you can always email us at campusrelations@sagecore.com. We can always answer those or connect you with alumni if you do have specific questions for them. But otherwise, thank you all for taking the time to meet with us. I hope you didn't miss a DSP chapter event. But please keep us posted if you're interested in doing the program. And also the apply link is here as well. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.